Hi, this is Mary Greendale and Just Thinking. We're here today to talk about the upcoming town election, which was originally scheduled for May and is now going to be June 23rd. And joining me on this Zoom event is Elizabeth Greendale, Town Clerk. And Liz has been kind enough to come and explain how we're going to be doing things a little differently. Just as an FYI, I have already voted, and I have voted by mail. So we'll talk to Elizabeth about that. So good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, Mary.
How are you?
For having me on.
Yeah, oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. Everything looks very sunny and bright where you are.
Yes, it is. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah. All right, so the election date is June 23rd. Let's start with the hours. The hours are a little different.
The hours have been changed. The selectmen voted to reduce the hours, again, to reduce the exposure of our poll workers and the voters. So the polls will be open from noon to 4 on the 23rd. We are encouraging people to vote by mail. As you said, you've already done yours. So you can only vote by mail. Provisions have been made through the state legislature to increase early voting by mail. This is, as you know, unprecedented times. And typical early voting is only done 1 week or 2 weeks before an election. And but not in front of a town meeting. I mean, a town election, excuse me. So now it's just open. Anybody can early vote anytime up to the election. But doing it by mail, you need to make sure you get an application in early enough for us to send you the ballot and for you to send the ballot back.
All right, so I want to back up for one second. Can you vote early up until the day before the election? So I mean, if you put it in the mail, maybe it wouldn't get to you, but so how late can you submit an application? I mean, a ballot.
That depends on the U.S. Postal Service. So
yes.
We have to receive the application. So everybody has to request the ballot. We can receive those applications by email. So if you print it, scan it, send it in, we will mail it out that day. And if it gets too close by the time you get it, you can always drop it off at Town Hall before 4 p.m. on the 23rd of June.
But you can't go into Town Hall. You put it in the box outside?
In the box outside. And we will check that at 4 o'clock and make sure that we have every ballot counted. And that goes back.
And to be clear, that's the box that's hanging next to the door, not the great big box that's for the land use.
Either box.
Either box, okay.
Either box. We have a key to both boxes, so that's not a problem.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, so for getting that application, now I know that absentee ballots, you always had to send in a note or something like that years ago, talking years ago. Now I discovered if I went to the main page, the home page of the town website, and I scroll down to maybe 2/3 of the way from the bottom, it says something about an early ballot for the town election or something there that gave me the information that I should click on that. Clicked on that, and then there's an application form. I can't type out that application form on the screen. I have to print it out, right?
Correct.
Okay, so print it out, filled it out, and then I scanned it. What if somebody can't scan it? Can they fold it up and put it in the mail?
They can fold it up and put it in the mail. They can even take a picture of it if they have a smartphone and then email it to us.
How clever is that? Okay, so then we get back, and I know this from experience, so like the next day, I got the ballot back, and the ballot had a brown envelope, which is the actual ballot, and then a mailing envelope. Now, the brown ballot, the instructions are right on the, what do you call it, ballot itself. Right at the top, it tells you just exactly what to do. So it's pretty straightforward. Only part that I got confused about was I finished everything. I signed the ballot, did my voting, put it into the brown folder, brown envelope. Now I'm going to put it into the other envelope. How many stamps do I have to put on it? Because it says I have to put on the postage, and I'm happy to do that. But is it more than an ounce, given that it's got the ballot and the envelope and everything in there? Has anybody said?
One stamp should do.
Okay, okay. Because that would,
I'd like to clarify, you said you signed the ballot. You didn't sign the ballot, you signed the brown envelope.
good point.
That's very important because we cannot process a ballot unless that brown envelope has been signed. Because those brown envelopes do not get opened until the election, until the polls are open. So those ballots will be processed starting at noon on June 23rd, meaning all those envelopes will be opened and then the ballots will be processed.
What do you save? What do you keep?
We keep the brown envelope and we keep the ballot. And we keep the brown envelope and we keep the application.
Okay.
So every one of those returned ballots, like you said, there's an outer envelope for mailing that you put a stamp on. That we throw away. We don't need that anymore. And then it gets entered into the system so that we can account for the ballot being returned, because we account for the ballot being sent out, and now we're accounting for the ballot being returned. So we know we have it in our possession. Then we match that brown envelope unopened with your application. And then that is all taken up to the polls. And then we have a team of people who open them and check you in as if you were standing there in person. You know, you get checked in and you get checked out at the polls before your ballot gets processed.
Right.
You have to do that. We do that for you. And then the ballot gets processed.
So by processed, you mean it's still being run through the machines?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So you're handling these ballots a lot, like multiple times, or these
Yes, we are.
envelopes and stuff. Okay, that's labor intensive, I must say. Then when it's all done, you have to maintain the application and the brown envelopes for some period of time in case something is contested, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. And how long is that? Is that a reasonable amount of time, or do we store things for years?
No, it depends on the type of election. A state election is 18 months. And a town election is just 1 month.
Okay. All right.
You know, because it's really in case somebody wanted to recount.
Yeah. So let's talk about, some people are by choice or by not being aware or whatever, are going to end up going up to the election. They'll go to the gym the same as they always have, but there's a different layout. So why don't you explain
Much different. There will be an entrance door and an exit door. So if people are familiar with the gym entrance, there are 3 sets of doors. The middle set of doors will be blocked off. So they'll enter on the right and they'll walk all the way down the hall and enter into the gym at the far door. And then they'll go to their precinct, vote, as they typically would. It's going to look different. There's going to be plexiglass shields to protect the poll workers. There's going to be extra tables in front. There's only going to be 1 check-in person, 1 checkout person. And then they can, once they put their ballot in the tabulator, they exit through another door. And then, so it's just going to be a one-way flow of traffic. But people can come in and vote in person. We're not saying that you can't. We're just saying, you know, for the protection of all, that the processing the ballots by mail would be the best way to handle this in this instance.
Yeah. Okay. Now, is there any concern about, like, do they have to wear their masks, the poll workers and people going in? Do they need to maintain all of that, even though you've got plenty of space?
Yes, everyone will need to be wearing a mask.
Oh, okay. All right. And then as far as food, sometimes they bring food into you and stuff like that. Do you need to worry about that since it's such a short period of time? Or are you going to be limiting that?
I am going to be limiting that. I am going to have Diane, the assistant town clerk, and I have discussed this already. Because processing all those ballots takes quite some time, and we may not be able to get that done within the 4 hours. So if we may be there longer processing those ballots.
Right.
So I'm going to have snack type food, individual, bottles of water that people can grab, and individual snacks that, are already pre-wrapped that, they can grab on their own. And, we won't do what we usually do.
And hand sanitizer everywhere, and waste baskets,
Oh, yes.
and all that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
hand sanitizer. So what we're going to do is I am testing the ballots with pencil, and I'm hoping that will work so that we can just hand out a golf pencil to every voter and they can throw it away when they're done. And as opposed to having the pens at the booths.
Yeah.
If that doesn't work, then we will have pens that we'll have to sanitize, and I'm looking into that process as well. And then we'll be sanitizing the booths frequently. We'll go down and, after somebody uses it, we'll go down and we'll wipe it down. And we're going to do the best we can with that.
Can a person use his own pen if he has one?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had forgotten about pens. Those are another point of contact. All right, in the meantime, if somebody has questions, the town hall, the town clerk's office, is it open?
It is not open to the public. However, our staff is on hand and they're answering phones, and they can answer any questions by calling town clerk's office 429-0601 or emailing Diane or myself.
Okay. And is there any expectation that the ballot count will be an issue? I mean, that's a kind of close proximity kind of job usually, but how will you do that? Counting all those ballots at the end? I'm going
to set people up at either end of a 6-foot table.
Okay.
And it'll be done that way. So it's going to look a lot different. It's going to be a lot different. It's probably going to take us a lot more time than typical elections.
And you can't start counting the ballots that you already have now. You have to wait until the polls officially open.
We cannot.
That's by state law.
That's by state law. Now, just as an aside, some of my colleagues on the Mass Town Clerks Association just recently testified at a hearing, and we are hoping that we can process those ballots in September and November, because we are going to have a huge amount. I mean, right now, our 5-year average for a town election is 1,450. So right now, we're at 20% of that number in early voting and absentee voting ballots that have been sent out.
But in November, if you had to wait to start, I mean, you could be buried. You could be in there for days.
We could be there for, yes, we could. And in 2016, there were people who were there until 3-4 o'clock in the morning, processing all the early ballots. Because you remember, it was the first time we did it. Yeah. And Holliston had 3,500 out of our I think 9,000 that voted. So it's a large number. And to open those ballots and to, we have to open the envelopes and, that whole process.
The verification against the application and the envelope and everything else. I mean, you're talking about some multi-step process.
Yes.
When you get there. So it does seem ludicrous. I'm sure that given this whole virus thing, I'm sure that the legislature will see the wisdom of its ways to say, you got to be able to start counting ahead of time, or you could be there. We could be Iowa.
Well, now let me make another correction. It is not counting ahead of time. It is putting the ballots in the tabulator, and then those would be locked up. We would not be pulling any numbers until the polls close and every ballot is put in the tabulator. And there's a difference, because some people think, okay, you're counting ahead of time, so then but we don't know, and we won't know.
Yeah, but you don't want the election process to drag on for days. So
no, we don't.
Okay, have we covered everything that you need to get across? Because I know that this is important. It's a different process completely. I know that even if the ballot's little, so it's not like it's a complicated one.
No, it's not a complicated ballot. Unfortunately, some people weren't able to get their papers signed to get on the nomination, to get on the ballot.
Good
So
point.
there are
I
some
didn't
blank
realize
spaces.
we had so many open, uncontested, nobody running kind of seats.
Right.
And that is problematic. That means that those will either be appointed, or I suppose somebody could do a write-in campaign, but that would be so hard at this time, a write-in campaign.
There will likely be write-in winners on all of them. I mean, there will be, and whether that person decides to take that position or not, that's time will tell after the election.
All right, so anything else from your end?
I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity. And again, if people have questions, I know some people are concerned about the mail-in process, but there's so many checks and balances that go into what we do at elections that I hope people feel comfortable. But you can always call the office or send an email.
I really don't feel uncomfortable at all. I don't know what I'm missing. I just don't understand.
Well, I think one of the concerns that some people have is putting their name on the ballot.
It's not on the ballot, it's on the
Well, they're not, but they're putting it on an envelope that we open and then we pull a ballot out. So some people have the feeling that, those poll workers are looking at how they voted. But honestly, when we're dealing with that many numbers, we're opening, you've got one person slicing an envelope and the other person's pulling, and the other person is straightening out the ballot. So nobody's looking. No, trust me.
We don't have time.
Volume. No one's looking at anybody's ballot.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, well, thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate you taking some time to help me get this out there.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
All right, be careful. Take care.
I will. All right, bye-bye.
All right, folks, so now you know what the instructions are. You're going to go ahead and order your ballot, and you can do that online. You can call, you can send in a note, you can print down the application. You can't send in a note. I'm going to back up and correct myself. But you can print it out and mail it, or you can just scan it in, or Elizabeth said you can even take a picture of it, which I think is amazing. But anyway, okay, so the election is June 23rd. Start your engines. Talk to you soon. Take care. Be safe.